Agotavach, this is Gemar Nedarim Daf Yud Ches. Apologies, this is the Daf for Shabbos, a bit late. Hopefully, B'siyat D'Shmaya, we'll be able to get the rest of the week up in the appropriate time. So we begin in the bottom of Yud Zayin Amid Beis, and the Gemara asks a kasha. It asks the Gemara 7 lines to the bottom, Meisvei. And of course, in order to understand the Gemara, we have to know who are we asking a question on. And of course, the answer is again, we're asking on Rav Huna. But perhaps for some that are a little bit behind and not remembering exactly what happened in the previous daf, let's just for a moment scroll up to Yud Zayin Amud Aleph and remind yourself as to the Shita of Rav Huna that taught us that the din of Yesh Neder, B'Seich Neder in the Mishnah is only Harini Nazir Ayayim, Harini Nazir L'Machar. Why? Because since it's Chalt the extra day, therefore Yesh Neder, B'Seich Neder, Yesh Naziris, B'Seich Naziris. But if he said Harini Nazir Ayayim, Harini Nazir Ayayim, Ein Chal Naziris al Naziris, then it is not Chal. It is on that point that asks the Gemara Meisvei on the bottom of Yud Zayin Amid Beis. Shtei Naziros, asks the Gemara from a Brisa. The Brisa teaches us Misha Nazar, Shtei Naziros. If someone makes 2 Naziros, Mana es Arishayna, what does he do? He counts the first 30 days. Vehifrish carbon, and then he separates the carbon, the requisite carbon that you bring at the end of your term of Naziris. And then this is where things went haywire. Instead of proceeding by bringing the carbon and moving onward, but what he did was Vinishal Oleha. He was shayil, which means he undid. We know every neder, you have the power to undo the neder. How can you undo the neder? You undo the neder by creating a Pesach, finding a reason that you didn't want to do this, and you were shayil on the neder, you annulled the vow. So what happens now that you got rid of that first vow? Says the Brisa also loishniya barishayna. The second one slides in, and the second one is fulfilled that which he already did in the first one. He already was in Nazir for 30 days. Now the question is, does he need another 30 days? Why? Because he was Nazar Shtei Naziros. Says the Raisa, if he's shayil on the first Naziros, the second Naziros is considered to have been fulfilled by those 30 days that he already was a Nazir. So says the Gemara, Heichi Dami. That's a Brisa. Now, by interpreting this Brisa, it's going to be the Kasha and Rav Huna. So Heichi Dami, says the Gemara, 4 lines on the bottom, Yazayin Amid Beis. If the case over here is like Rav Huna would suggest, that the only time there's Nazir B'Seich Neder Naziris B'Seich Naziris is when you Nazir Hayoy Nazir L'Machar. If that was the case, so then why should the second one slide in and work in place of the first one? What's the problem? 1 second. Can't be. Why not? Because the second Nazirus is L'Machar. Starts tomorrow, is till day 31. So how can it be that the second Nazirus is fulfilled by the first 30 days? Wait! You have that extra day at the end. Elab Shita. So what must the Brisa be referring to? Harini Nazir Ayayim. Harini Nazir Ayayim. The Brisa must be referring to a case in which he said, Harini Nazir Ayayim, Harini Nazir Ayayim. Utiyofta de Rav Huna. And therefore it's going to be a kasha on Rav Huna. Again, let's speak out exactly what just happened. That we just proved that the Brisa must be referring to a case in which the person said, Harini Nazir Ayayim, Harini Nazir Ayayim. And we see that it's a good Nazirus, Yesh Neder, B'Seich Neder, even when you said Ayayim, Ayayim, kasha on Rav Huna. Answers the Gemara, Loi, the top line of Yechesam and Aleph, no. Loi l'marni Nazir Ayayim, Harini Nazir l'Machar. Really, I'll tell you, it's talking about a case, Nazir today, Nazir tomorrow. what was your kasha? That if that is true, there should be an extra day of Nazirus. You told me that the second term of Nazirus is fulfilled by the first 30 days. But the kasha was, what about that extra day? Who answers the Gemara, my also, what does it mean it works? Lebar me'ahu yoma yisira. It works for 29 out of the 30 days, and you still need to have a 30th day, and therefore there's no kasha in Rav Huna. Inami, answer number 2, konchkibal shtei naziros bevas achas. The second answer is that he made 2 naziros simultaneously, and this is going to be the one case in which Rav Huna is going to be maskim. Let's look at the Ran on the first narrow line. Says the Ran, Koloimar dekai gavna chali tervayu. Even though Rav Huna normally holds, when one says Erini Nazir Ayomi, it does not work. But if you're kabel shtein nazirs v'asacha, says Rav Huna, it does. Sharei ein achzvim koidemis lechavertei, says the Ran. The name is Lotach Shnei Acharel, and therefore they are both chal, and that's going to be the case of the Braisa. Kasha 1 on Rav Huna. Answer for Rav Huna, and we continue the Gemara. Masiv Rav Hamnuna, another kasha in Rav Huna. Says in the pasuk, Nazir lahazir. Says the Torah, so it makes a nedir of a Nazir lahazir, which means a Nazir to be Nazir, to abstain. So why do I have to double up these words? Mikan. From here we learn, and hopefully this should sound familiar, as we had this all the way back on Gimel Amid Beis. Mikan, what do we learn from here? Says the Gemara, Sheneziras chal and Neziro sheyach. I would have thought. V'aloidinu, you know what the din is? Uma shvua chamura. We've been comparing and contrasting shvuos versus nedarim the past few days. Now we're going to learn the difference. Uma shvua chamura, says the Gemara, blanket statement. A statement that the Gemara is going to prove in a moment. But if a shvua is more chamer, and yet the din is ein shvua chal al shvua, so neziros kalo, neziro which is not as chamer, lo kol shekain, certainly that the Nazirah should not be chal and Nazirus. Talmud loymar, so that's why we need a pasik. Nazir lehazir. So what is this extra word, the doubling of the pasik teaches us? Mikan sheneziros chala al hanazirus. This teaches me that indeed a Nazirus is yes chal on Nazirus. Okay, so far that's not a kasha in Rav Huna. Says the Gemara, Heichi Dami. What is this case in which we're explaining right now that we're going to say that yes, Naziros is chal on Nazirus? Heichi Dami, what is the case? If you're going to tell me, if it's like you, Rav Huna, said, that the case is in which one said, ask the Gemara, Hakraya Bai. Do we need a pasuk for that case? That's pashit that it works. What would it need a pasuk for that? Elalav, it must be that what's the case? Vikatani, and then we have a brisa saying the pasuk's teaching me Naziros chala Naziros. Kashan Rav Huna answers the Gemara, Lo yachva mayaskina goch kibul alav shtei Naziros bevas achas. The same terrace as we said before. So now that we answered up for Rav Huna, now we just, dot our I's and cross our T's. Says the Gemara, wait, the Brisa said that there's a chumrah of shvu over Nazirs. What was that? Says the Gemara, my chumrah de shvu min nadir. What is that chumrah of shvu over neder? If you're going to tell me that the chumrah is that the shvu is chal and the neder is not, on which scenario? Afilu al davar she'ein b'ay mamish, that a shvuah can be chal, something that we've said many times. Something that is not tangible. Says the Gemara, neder nami chamer. But in that regard, we know that a neder is also chamer. That what? Shekei chal al mitzvahs kirishos. So both of them have a chamra. Elamisham, you know what the chumrah of shvuah is? Chsiv ba b'shvuah. The Torah says with regard to a shvuah, lo yinakeh. Says the Gemara with regard to a shvuah that the shvuah are more chamer than nedarim. Why? Because Hashem does not absolve one who makes a shvuah shav lo yinakeh. He will not be cleansed. So there, parenthetically in our sugya, we learn the chumrah of shvuah is over nedarim. And now we continue. We're at the 2 dots, about 15 lines to the bottom of Yud Ches Amid Aleph. Says the Gemara. Shvua shloi oichal ve'ochal in a chayiv ela achas. This is the end of the Mishnah. That when you make a shvua, b'seich shvua, the halacha was it's only one shvua, and you ain't a chayiv ela achas. Amar Rava says Rava. But what happens in nishal al rishayna shniya chalalaf? You made a shvua shleichal, and then you were shayil, you undid, you absolved yourself from the first shvua. Says Rava, the second one is now chal. Ask the Gemara Mimai, from where do we see this? Midaloi Katani, the Mishnah did not say Einoi Ella Achas. A word game. The Mishnah said shvua shleichal. I could have said it's one shvua. It didn't say that. Yeah, what did it say? V'katani Einoi Chayiv Ella Achas. And from there we learn out the only chayiv one. The reason is Rav Chaud Lasle, that the second shvu doesn't have a space. Revach doesn't have a space to be chal, so it's hanging. And therefore, ki mitchal al chaverto, when you're shayil, when you undo one of the shvuos, chayla, then the next shvua, yes, has a place to be chal. Lishna Achrina, says the Gemara, another lashain. How to learn that which we just said? Chayuvu daleka. That when you make a shvua, b'seich shvua, when it says you only chayav once, that just means that there's no chayav, but there is the shvua. L'may elchasa lechader Rava. Of course, is the previous Gemara just backwards. Damar Rava. What does Rava teach us? Nishal rishayna l'shniyat achtel. So now says the Gemara, lema misayeh alei. Let's try to bring a raya to Rava from the Brisa that says mishanadar shin neziros umana as rishayna ve'everish karban. And then what happens? Also, lai shniya barishaina. So says the Gemara, seeming that's a raya to this din of Rava, and the Gemara answers like we just saw a moment ago, and therefore it's no raya to Rava, because you have no way of knowing that this is a case of a neder b'teich neder. Why not? Because this could be a regular case, as we just explained, of a kibul of love niziros bivas achas. You were makabel both of them at one time, and as we read the Ran a few moments ago, the Ran explained to us that Rav Huna is maskim in this case. And we move over to Yud Chesem and Beis with a Mishnah. Says the Mishnah Stam Nedarim Lahachmir. A rule that anyone that's been trying to learn together with the Ran with us, that is something that's been coming up often, that the halacha with regard to Nedarim is a stam neder is machmir, but there's an interesting caveat. Pirusham, the explanation of the neder is lahakel. Now, what exactly does it mean? So let's take a moment to see the first narrow line of the Ran, that the Ran says koloimar. If someone makes a neder and you have a choice to explain what he says, lahachmer lahakel. If he doesn't explain, we go bistama lahachmer. That's what it means. Stam nedarim lahachmer. If we're not sure what his words mean, we explain them lachomra. But his pirushan is lahakel. What does that mean? That if he himself afterwards says, no, I had this and this in mind, we rely upon him to say that's what he meant. And the Ran tells us, foreshadows a bit, that the second half of this din of Perush and Akel, that's going to be the next Mishnah in Mirza Hashem in 2 days, and Avchaf Amid Alf. So now, says the Mishnah, let's talk about the first part. What's this din of Stam Nedarim Lahachmer, like we just explained from the Ran? Any time we could explain a neder one of two ways, we say it's L'chomra. Ketzar. Oh, Maria, like a Basar Maliach, someone says, this item is upon me like salt in meat. Or it's like wine libations. Im bishal shlamim nadar aser. If he made a neder with regard to the meat or wine of a shlamim, then it's forbidden. Im bishal avodah chavim nadar mutter. If it's avodah chavim, then it's going to be mutter. Why? Because avodah zara is not an entity that is a davar hanodar. It's a davar ha'aser, and you can't make a neder in something which is intrinsically aser, and therefore, im mishal v'ez chavim nadar, it's going to be mutter. So those are the 2 coins, what he could have meant, and what are we coming to teach? Stam nedarim lahachmir, says the Mishnah on the 4th line of Yochasem Beis, im sasam. If he said stam, kibsar maliach yayin eschon, we don't know. Did he mean it should be like a carbon, and therefore it's yes going to be aser? Did he mean it to be like a vodazar, and therefore it will not be aser? Stam aser. Stam nedarim lahachmir. Case number 2. Harei like a cherem. 5 lines into Yud Chesem and Beis, if someone says it's like to me, like a chayrim im chayrim shel shamayim, also if you meant like chayrim of heaven, it's forbidden. Im chayrim shel kohanim, then it's going to be mutter. So im sasam, again, it's going to be usher, and that's going to be the theme of the whole Mishnah. And of course, the Gemara is going to explain all these cases. Arei like kemaiser, so im kemaiser behema nadar us, as the Ran so eloquently points out. Why? Because the davar anadru. Meiser behema, saying that man creates on his own because he calls the 10th animal a meiser, and therefore if that's what he meant, then this entity is a davar hanodar, and therefore it's asr. Im shel gairin is going to be mutter. Im sasan asr. Harei like truma. If someone said this entity is to be like truma, so im kishumas alishka, it's going to be another asr. Im shel gairin is going to be mutter. Im sasan asr. Divi Rabbi Meir. On this last case, Rabbi Yehuda Oimer, in this case of truma, depends where you live. Stam truma b'Yehuda is asura, whereas b'Galil it's mutter. What's the difference in Yehuda and Galil with regard to a stam truma? Says the Mishnah Sheinan Galil ma'akirin es trumas al mishka. Because the people of the Galil, because they live so far away from Yushalayim, when they say the word truma, they never have in mind to be trumas al lishka being given to the collection of the Beis Hamikdash. Rather, they always have in mind that it should be trumas al gairin, and therefore the stam in Galil is going to be like not lishka, and therefore it's going to be mutter. Stam charamim b'Yehuda mutarin Galil asurin. Why? Sheinan sheklam akirin es char mekanim. Again, because the people of Galil are so far, they do not recognize the charamim of the kohanim. Let's just begin the Gemara before we call it a day. Asks the Gemara on the first din, the din at Stam Nedarim lahachmir. Asks the Gemara v'tanan. We learned to the Mishnah. Safek nizirus lahakil. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. And the Ran at the very, very bottom of here points out that this is a Mishnah in Miseches Tahiris, and points out the Ran that, so why, or where's our Gemara teaching us, our Mishnah teaches Stam Nedarim lahachmir? We see over here Stam Nizirus is lahakel. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Zir, Lo Kasha, Rav Lazar, Abanon. It's a machlekes. The Tani learned to the Brisa, Hamakdish Chayasa Yubehemtei. If someone makes hektish, someone consecrates all his wild animals, domesticated animals, hektish es hakai, divi Rav Eliezer, hakai, safik behema, safik chaya, we do not know what it is. Says Rav Eliezer is included in his words. Says the Tanakama, Rav Eliezer, Oimer lo hektish es hakai. So what does this have to do with anything? If someone is makdish, either as wild or as domesticated animals, how do we know whether the koi or the kvi, as some pronounce it, how do we know that perhaps is included or not? The Tanakama says yes, Rav Elazar says no. Explains the Gemara, according to the Mandamar, according to the Tanakama, the first opinion, that says your money, your animals, you allow to be included in a suffix, and therefore the koi, which is a suffix behemoth of chaya, is included in this hektish, so to your body will be included, and therefore it will be more machmer. That's our Mishnah. Whereas umanda amar so too gufei nami, the same thing is going to be about his guf. Kol shkein d'lamayel isfeika certainly will not work in a suffix. And tomorrow we're going to delve a bit deeper into this machlekes on Daf Yomi Pesiyata Dishmaya.